Hey, it's Craig Gross, and you're watching Sex in the Digital Age, the final of 6 episodes. Man, it's been awesome being here at God TV. And today, we're back with my friend Steven Luff to answer a lot of questions in regards to pornography, our relationships. So he'll be back with us after the break.
Struggling with lust, porn? Is your marriage in trouble? Get free and stay free with expert advice and uniquely designed courses by XXX Church. You can access these at a fraction of the cost of conventional counseling programs. In addition, we have partnered with XXX Church to give you a further 20% discount. Go to our website to receive your discount code today. Visit god.tv/sex.
Welcome back to Sex in the Digital Age. Back here with Steven Luff. Thanks for coming back.
Of course.
We talked in the first time I had you on just about the groups that you do in Los Angeles and then our small groups online. One of the things that I find fascinating as I dive into kind of the numbers and Google spreadsheets, all that geek stuff, is I find that men and women will join our groups. They'll see a breakthrough, they'll get the community, all the things that you know work. And then what do? I don't even have to tell you because you know. What do? And as soon as they have that good season of like a streak of 3 months with no porn, you don't see them, right? Like,
I got it.
Yeah,
I got it from here. Don't worry about it. I'll be fine.
Yeah, no, they're good. And especially if like...
Fixed.
I mean, your groups are free on Tuesday nights. Ours have a small fee online. But even that, it's like, it's Tuesday night in LA. I don't want to drive. Like all the excuses in the world. And what I'm shocked by is then oftentimes I hear from their spouse, like they don't need that anymore. Like, why do they need to keep coming? Because they don't want to be married to somebody that it almost shows weakness that they're going, where I would argue it shows strength that they're going, even though they're on this streak where they're doing really well. So you've got this roster of, I don't know, hundreds of people.
200 guys.
How does that not drive you nuts? Where you're just like, and then they call you obviously 6 months later, and your question is like, well, where have you been at the group? So that cycle, like how do we?
I know that you weren't necessarily saying that that's your view, but what really moves my heart about the work that I do, and I've made this comment to you a lot. I mean, I'm trained, I'm a therapist, et cetera, but the biggest thing that I can provide these guys is consistency and a key to a room. Right?
Yeah.
I show up on Tuesday nights, or my proxy shows up on Tuesday nights, and the door is open from 7:30 until 9. And the topic is sex addiction, or sexual compulsivity, or some sexual behavior you don't want to have in your life. And you hash it out, we talk about it. But what warms my heart is I'll give you an example of one guy who I think started coming to the group 6 years ago. And when he would show up, it was the same thing every week, using porn. His wife's upset about it. He tells his wife, that about, and then he'll drift off. Called me one day recently. I mean, he's been using porn since he was 12, and in the 6 years that I've known him, it's just been like constant. I mean, I don't think he ever strung any time together of sobriety, like maybe 4 days, maybe, I don't know. He called me and said, my wife is leaving me. She's moving out. She's not leaving him, but she was separating. She was going to go live elsewhere. And that was a rock bottom moment for him because it was like stuff got real.
Yeah.
Right? And what warmed my heart is that I had been consistent for 9 years, right? And he had a place to go. And sometimes that happens. There'll just be guys that something terrible will happen in their life and they'll be like, I need somewhere to go. And the only place that I know of that is unconditionally loving, where they just kind of accepted me for whatever junk I was going through, is that Tuesday night group. And they just pop up 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years later. And I've seen in this 9-year period that, recovery and change takes a lot of ins and outs. Now, I don't feel like told you so about it. I feel more like, I'm still here. And that's part of unconditional love, right?
Yeah,
I'm still here, man. Just keep showing up until you get it. And if I can be that space for them, or the community or the group, and this is what I would like to see from churches, Just keep showing up, man. Life's hard. Life can be very hard, and we don't know what cards we're dealt. We just do the best that we can.
Yeah.
So you're talking about sort of that relapse, and boy, why don't they get it? They're going to have to get it on their own time.
Okay, and so Steve and I, obviously we're friends here. We're both soccer coaches, but I'm going to use this analogy because I think I'm more of a coach, you're a counselor.
Therapist.
Well, counselor, therapist. So whereas like you're providing that space and you're consistent, and I think there's obviously a huge place for that. But as a spouse or as a family member, you just said, hey, a guy's been coming to your group for 6 years and he hasn't strung together more than 4 days sober in porn. So for me, that would be like, you know, if I'm coaching a soccer team and we've never scored a goal, like I'd go, no, this is unacceptable. Like, so there's got to be this balance, but I'm trying to think from a spouse perspective, is going to group good enough? Or should she or he expect that if you're going to be going to this, I'm going to see, like we live in a results world, like you're going to stop. Like we just did this retreat in Alaska, you know, and it cost men thousands of dollars. I mean, just a plane ticket to go to Alaska isn't cheap. So the wives, I'm sure, of these men that did this, took time off to go to Alaska, this is what we're up against. Well, so you went to Alaska, you come back porn free. Well, no, like that doesn't mean I'm porn free, but should there be like a path where you're going, no, you're going to see some results, some change?
See, I'm going to get to that by going back to the soccer analogy. I think the difference is that if you're the soccer coach, the team has a specific goal as a team to achieve something, right? And as a therapist anyway, it's not my life. I'm a resource, right?
Okay.
My goals in life are not his goals in life. And maybe we bring that to the marriage. The marriage, in a sense, is, well, not in a sense, the marriage is a team. But both parties have to decide whether or not they want to be on the same team or if they're even trying to be on the same team, right? One person's playing hockey and the other one's playing soccer, right? Are we really going to be able to achieve the same goals if we're not even using the same equipment? If we're going with sports analogies here. But this is part of the individuation process. I would ask the wife, what kind of marriage do you want to be in? What kind of person do you want to be? And is this the type of person that you would like to be married to? And I know certainly Christian communities and the Christian church really does not advocate divorce. And I don't advocate divorce, but I certainly advocate individuation and people growing closer to God and themselves. And if they're hooked up in what their partner is always doing, right? I'm only okay if they're okay. Yeah. My day was good because I think Jimmy didn't use porn today. But I'm just on pins and needles waiting to find out when he tells me that, you know, Jimmy used porn. That's no way to live a life, right? I mean, you're not his mommy. Yeah. You're married to him, and he is there to support you in your pursuits, and you're there to support him in his pursuits. But if the pursuits are just so wildly different, then maybe the union needs to be questioned, the marriage needs to be questioned. And that might be a big slap in the face for Jimmy, right? No, but you can't leave me. Yes, I can leave you.
A lot of guys, I think, need that wake up. I mean, most people that reach out to us are in crisis, and they've been caught, and so, you know, they've hit that rock bottom, and now they're ready to change. But let's talk about patience, because I think what you're saying, and I agree as well, is like for the wife, and if the husband's the addict, the wife, have some patience in this process. But I think what's tough for a lot of guys is they expect their wives to have patience with them as they figure this out. But a wife's first reaction when she finds out you're using porn or you've been unfaithful is to shut down any physical activity.
Physical activity meaning?
Sex. Like, they're not going to now want to have sex with you. So I hear this all the time from guys going, well, I told my wife, we're working through it, but now she doesn't want to have sex with me. And the guys are impatient because they don't understand, like, the devastation that their wife's going through because of this. And they just go, well, now she shut me down.
But see, porn's not about sex. Porn is about managing your emotions and managing your fear and hiding from life. That's what it's really about. And if you're taking that same attitude to your wife and having sex with your wife is just another drug. Mm-hmm. right? So it's sort of apples and oranges in that sense. You get rid of the porn, and the person grows and is in groups, is in therapy, and then you make love. That's because you're connecting with your partner. It's not you're trying to hide and, honey, do this crazy sexual thing that I saw online.
Yeah.
You know, honey, I want you to do this thing because my brain is so hardwired to avoid all of my emotions that I need you to be something for me. That's not seeing your partner. That's using your partner as a drug.
So what would you tell that guy that says, hey, you know, I'm working through this, my wife's staying with me, but I really wish she would now want to have sex? Like, what steps would you tell that guy to go, hey, give her some space and time and understand what she's going through, but yeah, I think what you said it, don't treat sex like porn.
Well, to the addict, sex is their to the sex addict, they believe sex is their greatest need. It's not. And they maybe need to stop having sex for a while. I mean, oftentimes in sobriety programs, they go abstinent from everything, even still married, for a year. And you know what you might discover after that year is, I was using sex as a drug. I was using my wife as a drug. And I want to be me. I don't want to feel so much pressure and tension by what I think my parents want me to be or what society wants me to be. I can only be me. And the spouse is going through the same process. I can only be me. She's healing. And the hope is on the other end of that, they meet each other as individuals. And they see each other not as all the stuff they want them to be, projecting all their junk on each other. They see each other as Sally and Tom.
Yeah.
And Sally and Tom, as unique individuals, go off into the sunset. And on occasion, they may make love because they see each other as Sally and Tom, not a bunch of other, escaped avenues or projections of parents and past stuff. Yeah, you take a break from sex, perhaps, for a year so that you can find yourself.
Yeah, or I had a guy, he wrote in just the other day, and he said, hey, he wanted his wife to do something that she was uncomfortable with. Which I'm like, dude, you saw this from porn. So first of all, it's a dead giveaway. I always tell women, if your guy's asking for these certain things, it means he's watching porn. And, he didn't know how to bring it up with his wife. And I was like, what's a better thing to bring up with your wife is just having this open conversation. We have an whole episode here on this show about sex in marriage. And it is a whole different reality than porn and what porn has taught you about sex. So we got to take a break, but we'll come back with more with Steven Luff after the break.
Struggling with lust, porn? Is your marriage in trouble? Are your children asking awkward questions about sex? XXX Church offer expert advice in uniquely designed courses at a fraction of the cost of conventional counseling programs. Best sex life now. Whether you've been married for 20 years or 20 days, this course is a must for those who want a great marriage that includes a great sex life. Fighting for my marriage. Go from crisis to joy in your marriage. Touchy subjects for parents who don't know where to start in a confusing, media-saturated world. Guide your kids safely into adulthood through meaningful conversations on sex, relationships, and other potentially embarrassing subjects. To accompany this series of Sex in the Digital Age, in partnership with our friends at XXX Church, we're offering you access to all X3 workshop resources at a 20% discount. Go to our website today and receive your discount code. Visit god.tv/sex.
Welcome back to Sex in the Digital Age, talking with Steven Luff and about all things pornography. So one of the questions that I want to know is, we've been talking a lot about married folks, and what about the kid that's like, I'm young, it's really not a big deal. Like, our kids, we both have kids, and we talked earlier about, in another episode, just how kids don't even see this as a big deal. Is this really that big of a deal?
Well, not to be the therapist, but I mean, you've got a son the same age as my, Nolan's 14, right?
Same age,
so
yeah.
My son, Jude, is 14, and speaking for myself, I've been having conversations with both of my kids. I have a daughter who's 16 since I don't know, certainly since I've been doing stuff with you 10 years ago. So Phoebe was 6 and Jude was 4, and I, from what I understand, Nolan and your daughter, you've been having open conversations about it. I don't believe that there is any other way around this than to have very open conversations about it. I mean, I mentioned earlier about being a realist. I think you have to be a realist with your kids. There's lots of stuff out there in the world. Porn's one of them. This is kind of what happens to people when they use it. You know, I can't watch you all the time. I will certainly not have give you unlimited access to things online in our home, but you have choices, and is this a choice that you want to make? And you're saying, you know, young men saying, what's a big deal? It's a huge deal.
Yeah.
It jacks your brain up, and you don't want to start it. And the sad thing that I've found is that a lot of men that I see who are 26, 27, 28, and have been using it since they're 12, they're like, I don't know how to be with a woman.
Yeah.
I don't know how to date. I don't know how to go on a date. I don't know how to talk to a woman. They're just, yet they've seen the most, what's
Crazy vision. Yeah,
crazy vision.
Yeah,
they've seen every
the
stuff that I couldn't even probably verbalize they've seen. And how do you then kiss Jane on the cheek goodnight when you've got in the back of your mind unspeakable?
Yeah, all that. And even that, I think as a ministry, our team, we'll discuss, we had this conversation recently where, do we think our average person coming to our website is just looking at porn? And one of the guys on our team said, oh yeah, I think it's like casual porn viewers. And then we talked about our small group ministry. And I was like, if you're in our small group ministry, I don't think we're dealing with just casual porn users. So I know this is not how everybody escalates, but you're dealing with hundreds of people over the last 10 years. What is that path that you've seen look like from going online to offline, or taking riskier, making riskier choices from strip clubs or prostitutes? What is that path? And I don't want to put a time frame. After 6 months you go here, but what's that trajectory that you normally see in a lot of these men that you deal with, where it starts with maybe something innocent on the computer and it leads to what?
Well, I will say that it's a mixed bag what course people's addictions take them in, right? I mean, some people would just use porn, and maybe the same type of porn. Some would go and start to use, more intense forms of porn. Some people really aren't into the porn thing. They're more into the risk of massage parlors, prostitutes, strip clubs, right? You're talking about the trajectory of how you enter small and then it gets worse and worse and worse, right?
Yeah, and then you find yourself,
arrested.
Yeah, or even this, I was surprised the number of men on this Alaska retreat with us, a number of them married. And their porn use, and then it escalated, and several of them telling us that even though they're married, they've experimented with same-sex struggles because they've seen everything else. And they wouldn't classify themselves as gay, but they're saying, I've now seen everything, that I'm now doing this. And for a lot of people, you just kind of go, gosh, how did I get here? And that's where, when I see the Bible says, just lust has no, it's endless of sin has no boundaries. I mean, it just can just go. And so have you seen the same thing?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's that rock bottom, right? I was talking about the one client whose wife finally said, I'm gonna leave you. I mean, I wouldn't say that his porn use escalated, but it just remained at the same level. I don't know if it could escalate much more than him using it as constantly as he was anyway.
Yeah.
The point being, yes, you start down the pathway of using porn and it's not easy to get out of. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's gonna escalate, but it's certainly gonna more than likely stay the same. Although it does escalate because the brain loves novelty. And if you're trying to mask an emotional pain, right, mask past hurts, what used to mask it, that sense of pleasure from dopamine, You're not going to get the same amount. I mean, think about heroin addicts, the same sort of thing. You take a little bit when they first started using heroin, and then their tolerance grows to the point where they're using a lot of heroin to get the same amount of high that they used. It's the same thing with porn and sex addiction. Those things that were novel at one point in time that the brain wanted to remember, that gave you that burst of dopamine that felt so good, it's just not going to be as interesting again. So you have to go to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. There's a deeper discussion about psychology, which we don't have time for, but the point being, there is no casual porn use. If you really want a life with a partner, porn's not part of it. Actually, if you want a life at all that is hopeful, that is engaged in life, that is engaged in reality, engaged in your God-given gifts, abusing substances, porn's a substance, is not going to get you there. And it is possible to change. It is very possible to change. It's not going to be easy, and it's mostly not going to be easy because all you know is the reality that you were given from birth, your family, whatever. And I was talking about individuation earlier. Change is about saying, wait, this isn't working. I'm not this. I don't want to be this. I don't know exactly what this new person looks like because I've never lived it before, but some other people have done it. Group, right? We're talking about going and getting in groups. Stick with the winners. Go find people who have changed. And at first, you might need to borrow their egos a little bit. How do I do it? That's sponsors, right? How do I do this? What steps do I take? Fake it before I make it, right? Fake it until I make it. Yeah, you might need to borrow someone else's life in a sense, someone who's sober, who's maybe has a good marriage. Borrow their life for a little bit until you go, oh, and you've sailed far enough away from this shore that you used to be in where you can see it and go, thank God I'm not there anymore. And that takes a lot of work, right? Change is possible, but it means it's like no athlete, going back to the athletic metaphors, no athlete becomes good by saying, today I'm tired, I don't want to go to group. No, they go to group.
Yeah, and put in the work.
You get up and you do it and you go. And sometimes you feel too tired to go. Here, let me make this point. There's a great saying. Whatever you put in front of your recovery, you're going to lose. Which means I can't go to group tonight. My wife wants me home, or I need to do, my work needs me here. You're going to lose your wife and your job if you don't recover. Recovery is for them. It's for you first, but it's for them as well. The more you recover, the solider your marriage is, the solider your relationship with your kids are. You go to the meetings because everyone benefits. You have to do the work.
No, it's huge. So I hope, we're wrapping up 6 episodes of this show. And I want to make sure we leave people with ultimately hope, what you've just said. Because I think a lot of the stuff that we've talked about in this season so far is tough, it's difficult, it's challenging. It's like that enormous hill that you don't ever think you can get over. But man, your marriage can survive. Your family can get better. Your addiction can, I think, be gone. Hard work is involved. Obviously, the Lord's involved in this. But yeah, what would you, kind of a final thought to when you're feeling discouraged, when that person when the wife wants to give up, when the husband goes, man, I can't, because I know there's that cycle going. The moment I think I've got this, I got that relapse. So any sense of hope we can provide?
Well, you're talking about God, and my view is God is in that space between what you can control and what you can't. And change is, like I keep getting back to individuating. Individuating is saying, this is me. I figured out who I want to be. I want to be sober. I want to be, I want to be this person. I want to do these things. I want to be an architect. This is what I want to be, a Christ follower. I want to go to church. This is who I want to be. You can't control whether or not your spouse says, I don't want to go to church, right? Okay. God's going to work out those pieces in the middle. Or maybe your spouse wants to leave you. You can say, I love you and I would prefer that you stay, but if she or he chooses to leave you, you can't control that. And so you sit within the space that you are. You make sure that you are as integrous as you possibly can be. And God will work out the pieces. Trust me, I've seen this so many times. I've seen it in my own life. God will turn you into the person that you were meant to be. Stick with your integrity, stick with the principles that you want to have in your life, and God will use you. It's the story of Noah in the Bible, right? He's called to Tarshish, and he says, no, I don't want to go there, man. He's going to go anyway.
Yeah.
Be yourself, listen to God, follow God, trust God, and you will arrive where you're supposed to arrive doing the work that you are called to do.
Yeah, that's huge. Thanks for coming back, and thank you all for watching this. I hope it's been helpful. I hope it's been encouraging, and if it has, let us know. Let the folks over at God TV know. I know this was not a stretch, but this is something new out of the box for them to partner with us. I mean, this is a tough topic. As popular it is everywhere else, I know this has been a challenge just to make sure, like we presented this in a way that connects here with you in this audience. And so reach out to us, reach out to them. We're available. Would love to hear from you and love to actually do more of this here on God TV. But I'd just love to close in prayer as we close out this first season of Sex in the Digital Age. God, thank you just for this opportunity to be here right now. And I don't know who is watching this, who's just tuned in for the first time, or who's been with us all 6 episodes. But God, I know that you do know them. You do know their struggles. You do know what they're up against. And God, I pray right now for the marriages that they would be healed. I pray for just compassion from spouses. I pray for the kids that are involved in this, the kids that are struggling in these areas that we're talking about. God, just the conversations that need to happen with friends, with accountability partners, with spouses. And God, just give us the words as we're trying to navigate all this stuff. God, give us the words, give us direction from you, how to live this life that Steven's just talking about, how to live a life of integrity, how to go after the things that you have in front of us and not be caught up by the sin that keeps trying to trip us up. God, we love you. We thank you for what you're allowing us to do and for the part that you play in our lives. God, we thank you for that. Pray this in your name. Amen.
Struggling with lust, porn? Is your marriage in trouble? Has your spouse been unfaithful? Are you struggling to stay pure, break free from a porn addiction, or simply looking for a better marriage? XXX Church offer expert advice in uniquely designed courses at a fraction of the cost of conventional counseling programs. My Pilgrimage. Break free from porn addiction. Hear from those who have faced the very same battles and know that freedom from sexual struggle is possible. Need more? X3 Pure is the first of its kind, an online confidential streaming video solution for men dealing with sexual addiction. Recover. Has your spouse been unfaithful? Searching for answers can seem lonely and overwhelming. Connect with women who have faced the same devastation and find encouragement and lasting healing. To accompany this series of Sex in the Digital Age, in partnership with our friends at XXX Church, we're offering you access to all X3 workshop resources at a 20% discount. Go to our website today and receive your discount code. Visit god.tv/sex.
Thank you for watching Sex in the Digital Age. You can re-watch today's episode or any other program in the series by going to god.tv/VOD. Also, send us your thoughts to feedback@god.tv. And don't forget, you can access your special discount for the XXX Church e-courses by going to god.tv/sex.